chat about the difference between being childless and being child-free, because it's come to my attention that there are some people who think that the words can be used interchangeably, and in my book, they are extremely different. So in the simplest terms ever, being childless means that you are lacking a child. It means that you want a child, but you do not have one. Being child-free means that you are free of children. You don't want to have children. You're happy to be child-free of children. A childless woman would not call herself child-free. She might actively be on the path to trying to get pregnant. She might be struggling with infertility. She might be in the process of trying to adopt a child. She's eager to get to the stage in her life where she can become a mom. A child-free woman never wants to have a kid, so she's free. The word free is tacked onto the end for a reason. Child-free women inherently feel free for the fact that they are escaping what some would call the trap of motherhood. Let me set the scene. I was on TikTok a few days ago and I was commenting on a woman's video about her child-free lifestyle. She was talking about how happy she is to be child-free. I'm also child-free, so I was commenting saying something like, same girl, with like a heart emoji or something. And someone in the comment section was arguing with someone else about the difference between childless and child-free. And I was shocked because I didn't think that people were trying to use those words interchangeably. A lot of people misunderstand what it means to be a child-free woman and assume that child-free women just hate kids and hate babies, and it's just not true. I am extremely excited to be an auntie. None of my siblings have had kids yet, but I am very excited for the day that I do get to become an aunt, and I want to pour into that child with as much love as possible. But I'm personally child-free. It doesn't mean I hate kids. It means that I don't want to have a kid myself. Being free of a child, being child-free, like put the word together, it means that I am embodying a life of freedom that doesn't come with all of the things that, it's gonna sound negative for me to describe it this way, but this is just how I personally view it. Being child-free means I'm free of all of the things that would weigh me down otherwise if I did choose to become a mom. Anytime a friend of mine will announce their pregnancy, I'm always the first person to say congratulations. I'm always the first person to celebrate them and be super excited for the next step in their life. It's just that it's not something for me. When I was at crochet club the other day, there was a young mom talking to another girl in class, and the girl in class was explaining how she kind of up and moved her entire life from the Midwest to Las Vegas. Within the span of a couple weeks, she decided she wanted to just completely leave her old life behind and start over in Vegas. And as I was listening in on this story, I resonated with that because I did the same thing. I packed up my car, everything that could fit in my car in California, and moved to Vegas so I could restart my life when I was 24. Graduated college in California and I was ready to start my life over in Vegas. So I had nothing tying me down, nothing holding me back. So I was able to abandon my old life and start my new life over. And I'm so happy I did that because I made new friends, I met my husband, I found so many new hobbies that I love. My life became so robust and so fulfilling when I started my life over in Las Vegas. But the young mom in my crochet class who was talking to her about it said, I wish I could do something like that, but I could never do that because of my kids. And it just made me think, that's exactly why I wouldn't want to have kids. You can't just up and start your life over if you feel like it. It sounds very negative and dark how I'm describing it, but it's just how I see it. I know that it's not the same case for all moms. There are some moms who can still, up and pack up their life and bring their kids too. But if you think about it, it's not always fair to do to the child, because if they have friends in the school system that they're in, to uproot them and make them start over somewhere else is not always like a good thing to do to a child. So you can't just think about yourself and your readiness to start over somewhere new. You have to think about how it impacts the child. So therefore your life is no longer yours, and therefore you don't have the freedom to make those decisions anymore. The girl in crochet class with kids was also saying, I really hate my job. I wish I could quit, but there's no way I could quit because I need the stability of knowing when I have my next paycheck coming in because I have my kids to take care of. And that was another thing that I wasn't part of this conversation, by the way. They were just loudly talking next to me, but it just reminded me of how many times I've quit jobs that were toxic and jobs that I felt unhappy at and really could not care less about how I landed after. I've always landed on my feet, but the fact that I was able to just comfortably job hop throughout my 20s, I was able to do that because I didn't have to worry about anyone depending on me. I didn't have to take BS from a boss. I didn't have to stay in a toxic environment. Anytime I was at a job, like there are so many jobs I had throughout my 20s. I worked at Starbucks, I worked at Victoria's Secret, I worked as a cocktail waitress, I worked as a Las Vegas showgirl. I had so many writing jobs for so many publications with editors who would nitpick the hell out of me. I never once felt pressured to stay at any of those jobs. And then another really modern example is the guy, I think his name is Sailing with Phoenix. and he was talking about how he hated his corporate life. He worked there for like 11 years. So he quit his job, cashed out his 401k, bought a sailboat, and sailed from Oregon to Hawaii. I love that story so much, and it is so inspiring. One thing that me and this guy have in common is that we don't have kids tying us down, so we can kind of do something like that if we feel like it. Right after I'm scrolling on TikTok and I see another guy talking about sailing with Phoenix's story, and he said, if I didn't have a wife and kids, that's something I would absolutely do for myself. And then he was encouraging his viewers, if you're single, if you're able to do what this guy did and live a life of adventure, you should do it. His advice was directed at single people, but I would beg to argue that it also applies to couples who don't have kids. I'm married. My husband has just as much of an adventurous spirit as I do. We're on the same page about loving freedom and flexibility. I'm very grateful to have found that, because I feel like there are a lot of people who don't think about what a hit it is to your freedom once you start having kids. There's always parents in these comment sections talking about, now that I have kids, I still travel just as much and I have just as much adventure and just as much fun. And I'm sure that's true for them. For child-free people specifically, we don't want to have to travel while wrangling up a crying baby, a running toddler, a moody preteen. We don't want to have to go through that. We just want to live our lives and not have to worry about that added layer of stress and pressure. And so that is the big difference between childless and child-free. Childless women are yearning for the day when they can wrangle up a rowdy toddler. They want that. They're craving that. Child-free women do not want that. Child-free women love the idea of hanging out with our nieces and nephews. I'm so excited to be the fun aunt, but I don't want to have that 24-hour stress, pressure, and responsibility on my shoulders for my entire existence. There's so much advice from people about trying to escape the matrix and live a life of freedom and flexibility, and that's something I completely agree with. I'm passionate about that message. I don't think we should be a slave to our 9-to-5. I don't believe in a 40-hour work week. I don't believe people should live to work. Working is a means to an end. We have to work to generate money so we can live our life outside of work. Fighting for freedom and having freedom across the board is something that has been such a huge factor in my life, that the idea of having kids is, in my opinion, the opposite of having freedom. When it comes to something as small as a job, which is not really comparable because you can quit and start a job any day, any time. When you have a kid, you are a parent forever. You never get to take that back. Starting a new job, moving to a new house, there are so many other big life decisions you can make that can be reversed. Becoming a parent is not one of those. I know personally that parenthood isn't for me, and that I am the type of person who should be child-free because I cherish and value my freedom so much. I love being able to just hop in my car and leave and go wherever I want, whenever I want. I love being able to just sleep in the middle of the afternoon if I feel like it. I love being able to choose a random date night excursion with my husband because we feel like it, and not have to worry about a babysitter, not have to worry about, there's just so many things that I don't have to worry about because I have chosen to live a child-free lifestyle, and that was by design. It was intentional. There are a lot of people who comment on child-free women's content and say, you're so lucky that you get to do this. It wasn't luck. Luck had nothing to do with it. It was a dedicated decision, a very well thought out decision by women of this generation who, for the first time in forever, women are being woken up to the fact that we do not have to get married and have kids. We can live fulfilling lifestyles if we don't become moms. For the longest time, we've been sold this prepackaged, in my opinion, a prepackaged lie that you are not complete as a woman until you have a child. You will not feel fulfilled as a woman until you are a mom. That message has been sold to us nonstop forever. Literally starting with Disney princess movies. If you ever spent time on the Regretful Parents forums on Reddit, there are multiple where parents will anonymously air their grievances about what it means to be a mom or a dad. A lot of these people are really disappointed in themselves and their life decisions. They miss who they were before they became a parent, and they grieve the life that they used to have before. They describe it as being a very thankless, unsatisfying role. Fleeting moments of blissful happiness, but a majority of struggle and pain and darkness. And I hate to make it sound dramatic, but over and over again, that is the message that I see. That's the rhetoric I see. And I feel like it's kind of important that this message has become so publicized, because for the longest time, we've been indoctrinated to believe that we won't be fulfilled until we become parents. And for generations, it's been taught that we should, the natural next step, you meet the person you want to be with, you get married, you have kids. That's just like boom, 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 boom. We're taught that that's normal. We're taught that that's normal and that's what we're supposed to do, when in reality, it's actually a decision and you can opt out. You do not have to give into the societal pressure to have kids. The biggest difference, in my opinion, between childless and child-free women is that you will never find a child-free woman who is regretful of her decision. I've searched the internet high and low. I have scoured these Reddit threads for older women who are regretful that they did not have kids. The only women who are regretful that they didn't have kids are the women who were childless. That means they wanted kids all along and life never worked out for them to actually have the kid. They always wanted to be a mom and it just never worked out. And so in their older age, they're still sad about it and regret that they didn't get to do it. That's not what I'm talking about. Child-free women do not regret their decision. There's a bunch of threads of parents regretting their decision and wishing that they didn't have kids, but there is not a single child-free woman who claims that she regrets that decision. There are childless women who regret it. Child-free women do not regret their decision. So it's kind of like, if you have it very solidified in your spirit that it is not meant for you, rest easy, rest assured, you are on the right track, you're doing the right thing, you're gonna get older and you're still not gonna regret it. You're gonna be just fine. There are so many older women. I've done so much research on this. There are so many older women who are so happy with their decision and they love that they chose to remain child-free, even though they faced criticism and judgment from society. They were pressured by certain romantic partners. They were pressured by their parents who really wanted to have grandkids. There are so many reasons women are pressured in society. You have no idea how many times I've been told that I am a wasted womb. I am a waste of a womb, as if the only reason I exist on this planet is to be an incubator for a baby. I'm sorry, no. There are so many things that I want to spend my time doing, and birthing a baby and raising kids is just not something that entices me. It's not something that interests me. And I think that's perfectly fine. It doesn't mean I'm judging people who do choose to have kids. I wish that the courtesy was extended in a reciprocal fashion, because child-free women are not judging moms for having kids. That is the normal, accepted side of society. Moms are accepted. Moms get the support from society. Child-free women do not. Child-free women are heavily criticized in comparison, which is weird to me because I feel like I'm so supportive of moms. Moms are doing the hardest job in the world. It's literally the hardest job in the world that I don't want and that I would hate. And they're doing it. They did it because they wanted to do it. That takes a really strong person. So I support them. I think they're out here doing a really hard, very challenging thing. This is another reason that I'm very grateful to live in the age of social media. Moms are starting to give anonymous warnings to younger women, like, hey, this is what it feels like to be a mom. They're giving warnings, and that wasn't a thing before. So because of social media, things are being exposed and things are being brought to the surface that it wasn't previously like that. Beyond anonymous threads on Reddit, there are also moms and dads too who are fully face on camera on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, all the social medias. They are full face sharing their story and telling the truth about what parenthood is like. And they are kind of deciding it's time to pull the veil off and it's time to start being very honest about what parenthood means. One thing I've heard on social media is that the phrase misery loves company. There are some parents who claim that parenthood is rainbows and butterflies to convince child-free people to have kids. And once the child-free person gets pregnant or has their kid, then they are exposed to the reality that it is not rainbows and butterflies. Because we are in the age of enlightenment, we are in the age of technology, a lot of people are being exposed to this information and learning the truth. Now that it's become more common knowledge that you do not need to have kids to feel fulfilled, I feel like more women are starting to cling to that and understand the truth of that and the weight of it. In today's society, there's a lot of injustices that are happening. And it also doesn't feel like the future's that bright for my age group. And by my age group, I'm referring to millennials. It doesn't feel like the future's that bright for millennials when it comes to home ownership and having a retirement plan. It doesn't really feel like the future's that bright for my age group. To also bring kids into the world when my own future doesn't feel that bright, that doesn't really sound like a good idea to me. I feel like with the boomers, their futures were bright. When the boomers were having kids, which is my parents, when they started having kids, they had really bright futures ahead of them. It was easy for them to get jobs. It was easy for them to get houses. It was easy for them to pay for their college education. It was easy for them to do so many things. And so when they brought kids into the world, they felt like they were birthing kids into a society that was blossoming and blooming in the right direction. But for me, my millennial age, it doesn't really feel like I would be birthing kids into a booming, incredible society and building them up to have the brightest future ever. It just doesn't look like that. Since entering motherhood and becoming a mom is what's normalized in society and being child-free goes against the grain, I feel like this is an extremely important message to speak on, and I'm going to continue speaking on it because I'm passionate about sharing this message with people, especially women who feel like, oh, the natural next step is grow up, get married, get a house, have kids. Who told you that? Who convinced you of that? It's just not true. There are other ways that you can live your life, and it doesn't have to involve having kids. I feel like I need to scream it from the rooftops. We can still live very robust, exciting, fulfilling lives, whether we become moms or not. And as a woman, we are not a wasted womb because we have chosen not to have kids. This is a very long roundabout way of saying that it is a willful ignorance to try to use the words child-free and childless interchangeably when they are two very, very, very different words. I would classify as a woman who is child-free. I do not want to have kids. Any woman yearning for kids who doesn't have kids yet is a childless woman. Myself and a woman like that, we are two very, very different people. And that is all I have to say about that. Thank you for watching.